I'm Julia from Jooya Teaching Resources, and welcome to Tuesday night here on my little Facebook page, or if you're watching on YouTube, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to comment below that you're watching the replay. Or give me a thumbs up, all those sorts of lovely things. Look, tonight we're talking about tone color. So I've been doing a series on the concepts of music, and this is week 3. So this week I'm talking about tone color. Next week I'll be talking about structure. But as I said, I'm going to be talking all things tone color. Now, for me, tone color is tone color. I know a lot of people refer to, in the elements of music, they refer to timbre, which is, for me, is just how an instrument sounds, whereas tone color seems to encompasses so much more, or performing media, depending on which way you want to, what you actually want to talk about. So I'm going to be talking about the things that you need to, there's only 5 things that you really need to concentrate on to actually be able to answer a question on tone color. And if you get these 5 things nailed, you're well and truly on your way to actually being able to pass the HSC exam. But if you are just learning about tone color or learning about the concepts of music, what I'm about to talk about tonight will certainly be able to help you and make sure that you know what that you can tackle these sorts of things and analyze music through the lens of tone color. So I will just share my screen once I do that and that and that. And sorry, I'll just, where is it? There it is. Slideshow from beginning. Okay, so as I said, we're talking about 5 strategies to master tone color in music. So I'll get into it and we'll talk about these 5 things that you need to know when you're talking about tone color in music. Don't you hate that when you haven't clicked it? No, it should work. Alrighty. So welcome. I'm going to be talking very briefly what are the 6 concepts in music. I'll give a very brief explanation about those, but we're going to focus on, as I said, on tone color and the 5 things, the 5 strategies that you need to remember to actually talk about tone color and what it is in music. So the 6 concepts of music are, in alphabetical order: duration, dynamics and expressive techniques, pitch, structure, texture, and tone color. Now, duration for me, some people might call it rhythm. It encompasses all those things. A lot of people just refer to dynamics, but in the concepts of music, dynamics and expressive techniques come under the one heading. Pitch, you might be want to break it into melody, tonality, and harmony. Structure or form. Texture is texture, and tone color, as said, some people refer to timbre, but tone color is, as said, I always think of tone color as being just a little bit more than just timbre. So a very brief definition of what tone color is simply the instruments used in a piece of music. That's it. It refers to the instruments used in a piece of music. And we're going to dig a bit deeper and talk about them a bit more, but essentially that is all it is. So you're listening for the instruments, but you want to be able to obviously give a bit more information. But as I said, I'll talk about that as we go along. Now, sometimes if you're looking at this and through the lens of a HSC oral exam, sometimes they might have a question that asks about the performing media. Now, performing media is just another name for tone color. So again, it is about the instruments used in a piece of music. Usually, again, in the HSC, you very, 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 very rarely, and I can't remember the last time they did it, have a straight tone color question. It's usually with something else. So it could be tone color and structure, or performing media and texture, or anything, or performing media or tone color with dynamics and expressive techniques. Depends on the type of music and the question being asked, but those are the sorts of things. So it refers to simply the instruments used in a piece of music. Sometimes you might also see it written as sound sources. So when you think about it, a sound source is anything that makes a noise. So if you've got a piece of music and they're asking you to refer to the sound sources, that's what they're actually talking about. Again, performing media or tone color. So again, it is just another name for the instruments used in a piece of music. And I've very deliberately done different instruments here for each of these definitions, because not all music is straight classical Western traditional type music. It could have all sorts of folk music. It could be electronic instruments. It could be, more cultural music in terms of from a particular place like Africa, or it could be from Greece, or it could be from Spain, or it could be from wherever it happens to be. And of course, there goes a train. If you can hear that, I apologize. Can't control the trains. Sometimes you also see, this is a bit sneaky, they refer to pitch material. The question might ask something like, in reference to structure, discuss the use of pitch material. So I'm just making that question up. Pitch material simply just means and refers to that you need to be talking about all of the pitched instruments used in a piece of music, just the pitched ones. So if it's got a lot of rhythmic instruments and untuned percussion or idiophones in there that do not have a pitch, you don't talk about them. Okay, we're talking about pitch material here, but they would definitely give you a piece that you actually are talking a bit more, that you've got enough to talk about. So timbre, on the other hand, is the unique sound quality of an instrument. Now, this is a balafon, okay, or an African type of xylophone. Now, the Western type of xylophone, even though it's very similar, okay, has a slightly different sound because of the way the instrument is constructed. Now, I talk about these with timbre a lot with my kids, and another perfect example is to talk about the guitar. Now, you can have a nylon string acoustic guitar, a steel string acoustic guitar or semi-acoustic guitar. You could have a 12-string guitar. You could have an electric guitar. And then again, of course, obviously with the electric guitar, you could have all sorts of sound effects. Now, each of those, even though they're all guitars, would all sound different. And that's where this timbre comes into. It's that unique sound quality of an instrument. So I'm going to be referring to this resource today. So if you wanted to grab this one, as I said, I'll be looking at a few things that you can use, a few pages out of this today. And again, if you want your own free copy, you go to juliajooya.teachable.com/p/master the concepts of music. But seriously, if you just go juliajooya.teachable.com, and you'll see there's 2 courses there. One's not available yet. It will be soon. But the second one is this freebie, and it's free. Just go in, download it, and you're good to go. So in this particular resource, there's a poster for each of the concepts, and this is the tone color one, which I'm going to explain a bit more here, which is the Ice Doctor. So you could use this as a large print, A3 size. So for me, that's double A4. So this is A4, okay, which you can sort of see next to my head there. A3 would be twice the size. I've actually got the A3 in my classroom, but that's the A4 size, which is the size it comes in. You just make it bigger. Or if you wanted to go A5, that is half of an A4. So you could actually get 2 of them in there, 2, okay. And that's perfect size for gluing into books. And then A6, which means 4 to a page. So A5 is 2 to A4 piece of paper, and A6 is 4 to a page. So if you go into printing, especially if you're using a PDF, you can go multiple, and you can type in the number of, put in there how many pages you want to print per page, and you can go multiple and you get 4 to a page. And this is a perfect size for a lot of different things. I use that size particularly a lot. You can also get the mind map. So again, you don't have to print the mind maps all in the large size. I was actually using these with my class today. I've got 2 stage 5 classes, which means 2 classes in year 9 and 10. And we're looking at tone color at the moment. Now, I printed 2 to a page because we were actually looking at the 2 different ways to classify instruments. And as I said, we had 2 to a page. So they only had, it was, that way. So there's 2 mind maps that way, and it works perfectly in their book, and it gave them enough space to use and talk about and discuss. So again, you can print it A3 if you wanted to. You could have it A5 or A4, and it's perfect for individual work or group work. And so we were actually, even though I actually gave in the lesson all my students a copy of the mind map, they were working together to complete the mind maps individually. It was a lovely lesson, actually. And again, you can use these tone color mind maps for a listening planning map, okay, which I know I'll be using that next week with my kids, a performance planning map. I'm using that at the moment, and more so the composition planning map. So what instruments are they using in the composition? How are those instruments classified? What techniques are they using? All those sorts of things, which I'm about to dive into, is the 5 things you need to know and 5 things you need to remember about the actual, about when you're talking about tone color. Sorry, mental blank. So the 5 things. I know it looks bigger on the page here. Okay, so this relates to this one here. Now, that particular page there is available in this here, which is the stage 5 tone color book, okay, which is in my store. It's only brand new because I needed it myself. And I'll just find the page. Or you can see that you can also get them. Oops, it's nearly there. So there it is in the book, what you could see on the page, same thing. And again, so instrument families, and that's what we were using today, the instrument families and Bostel. That's what we were using today. But that one is actually either in this or in the Elements of Music mind maps. You can get it in that one. Sorry, not Elements of Music, Concepts of Music mind maps. All right. But the thing is that what I like to talk about is Ice Doctor. I always say to my kids, tone color is about Ice Doctor. Identify, classify, explain, describe, range, roll, register. And the R's I always use as the same thing. You can also think about the instrument families. Now, I said this is the lesson I was actually doing today with my kids. So I gave them the 50 instrument cards, which comes with this as well. And I went, okay, you've got 2 different ways you can classify. Spread out the instruments that I've given you and decide where they're going to go. And it was really interesting watching the kids actually decide what they wanted to do and how they actually organised themselves when they were doing this activity. But again, it sort of stuck with them in terms of, oh, yeah, some instruments don't fit neatly into these instrument families, which is the way we classify instruments. Or you may want to choose to classify your instruments like this with the Horns Bostel one. And it's the electrophones or electronic sounds, idiophone, chordophone, aerophone, membranophone. And in fact, if you go deeper into this particular instrument classification system, they've got like that many different subcategories of each of these. But just to make it simple for the kids, we were talking about, them, what it was able to do in terms of talking about membranophones and idiophones, and that when you're doing instrument classifications in terms of the families, they come together under percussion, but they're different here. And the same with the aerophone here is actually all of the brass and the woodwind put together, plus a few others, because I had given them instruments like the bagpipes and the accordion and the harmonica, and they don't neatly fit into the instrument families, but they do fit better into this system. And I was more about just getting their eyes to open up about, oh, we can actually it's much easier to classify instruments this way, or it's much easier to classify them this way. All right, so again, you can see that there's the 2 different things here, and they relate one to another. So that tone color poster there, which you get for free, okay, identify, classify, explain, describe, range, roll, register. They're the 5 things you need to know or discuss when you're doing a tone color question. And that page there, as it said, is in those documents or in those things over in my store. So let's break it down a bit. So identify simply means listen to the music and identify and list the instruments that you can hear. Now, I like to make this as a good habit for every bit of listening that we do. Is the first thing I want them to do is identify the instruments, no matter what concept we're doing, because I want the kids to be able to refer to those instruments in their response. But you need, to be able to refer to an instrument, you need to be able to list it. So again, we're listing the instruments. So if we're looking at this little ensemble here, we've got a double bass, a clarinet, a violin, and a flute, a nice little quartet there. So that would be the instruments actually in this particular ensemble. So again, I talked about this briefly, but there's different ways to classify. So depending on the type of ensemble, you might want to think about what type of instruments you've got. So sometimes that's why it's really good to identify first, identify the instruments, sit back and look at it and go, okay, well, actually, I'm going to be better off to it's more of a classical piece and it's, orchestra and all that sort of stuff. I'm going to use the instrument families. Or you might decide to use instrument classification. Now, voices, as I said, can obviously go into instrument classification as well. But electrophone, quarterphone, idiophone, aerophone, membranophone, they're all there. And sometimes it's, depending on the type of ensemble, if it's got some unusual instruments that don't fit neatly into a family, better off to use the instrument classification. Because the piece we were actually looking at today, because my kids were doing Australian music at the moment, and large ensembles, and there was a version of Land Down Under that was performed by the Sydney Symphony Orchestra and William Barton, who's a didgeridoo player, and it was a great way it's perfect for the kids to actually be able to see what instruments are being performed, and then also to be able to then go and classify them. So explain. Now, the thing is, when you're talking about instruments and the mind map, if I go back a page, the way that we classify an instrument is simply the way an instrument makes a sound. So the string family, the way that an instrument makes a sound with the string family is they have strings, obviously, but they're bowed, strummed, or picked or plucked to make a sound. Okay, a brass family, you blow through them to make a sound. Percussion family, you're either going to hit, shake, or scrape. And that's what's really important when you're explaining the techniques used to produce a sound, which is what this is. For each instrument, explain what technique is used to produce a sound. So this little instrument here, it's a type of percussion instrument or idiophone, and they're hitting the instrument to make a sound. So, but you could also push it a little bit further. If it is you're hitting the instrument, what sort of mallets are they using? They're using mallets or sticks. Is it a soft sound or a hard sound? What sort of things are they using? If there's particular techniques, so if the guitar is strumming or it's being picked, or if the violin is being bowed or it's being picked, okay, there's other terms for that. I know there are, but I'm just using the simple ones today. Or if there's trills being played or glissandos or anything else, that's where that explain comes in. The next thing is to describe how each instrument sounds, the timbre and the unique sound quality of the instruments. So each instrument has a unique sound that is created when it's performed. So this is where you use all those lovely adjectives. So it could be warm, mellow, bright, sparkling, glittering, dark, somber, any of those sorts of words. And in fact, in here and in the HSC one as well, I've got a fantastic list. If you can see that there, that list is a really good list to use. So, I've got things like majestic, ringing, muddy, delicate, muffled, eerie, fat, artificial, beeping, velvety, hollow, synthetic, sad, nasal, wheezing, booming, divine. They're all just ways that you could be talking about instruments and the way you could describe the sound. So it might be a booming timpani, okay, or dramatic sounding timpani. It could be a harsh sounding shaker, okay, or rattly sort of sound, or it could be the castanets are quite they've got a penetrating sound that goes through, cuts through the actual ensemble. The last few, as I said, are all my R's, the range, roll, register. So what range or what roll, it doesn't matter what order you do them in, it just sounds better to say range, roll, register than to go roll, register, range. I know it really doesn't matter which way you do it. I generally ask my kids to actually do the roll first because it makes more sense than do range and register after, because that's a bonus if we can get there. So a range is the distance between the lowest and highest note performed by an instrument. So when you're looking at, this is where sometimes you've got to be a little bit more logical because some instruments do not have pitch. So don't talk about the range of the drum kit being extensive. They don't have a range. Okay, yes, there are certain sounds coming from the drum kit, but it's not pitch sounds. Whereas if we're talking about the piano here, we've got the possibility for an extensive range because it's, I can't do it in the camera, but it goes from one end to the other, okay, with 88 keys there. But the piece might not have the full range being performed. A harp, the same deal. It's got a very extensive range, doesn't mean that all of them are actually all the notes are being played. Okay, you can still have a piano and have a narrow range because maybe they're only playing 3 notes because it's hot cross buns. Don't know. Register simply means the height of the notes performed on the instrument described as treble or bass. You can go deeper and you can go upper treble, lower treble, mid treble. Same with bass, upper bass, mid bass, lower bass. And if you're looking at these little instruments here, we've got the piccolo, which would be upper treble. We've got the bassoon, which would be mid to low bass, depending on what they're playing. And then we've got the oboe, which sort of sits in that middle section. So we're talking the low treble to upper treble, okay, mid treble, depending on, again, what notes they're playing. It sort of sits about there, though. Okay, so again, we're talking treble or bass, but if you want to be simple, it's treble or bass that you were talking about. And then roll comes down to the role an instrument performs in a piece of music. So we've got three different brass instruments here with the trombone, the French horn, and the trumpet. Now, just looking at that ensemble, you can't tell what instrument's playing the melody. You have to listen and hear it, okay? So are they performing a melodic role? Are they performing a rhythmic role? Are they performing a melodic accompaniment or rhythmic accompaniment or the bass line or the beat? What are they doing? What is the role the instrument is performing? It might change, okay? It might change. So the 5 things that you need to remember when you are talking about tone color in music is ice doctor, identify, classify, explain, describe, range, roll, register. And as you can see, there's the definitions there on that other page there. So the tone color poster there is in the free resource. That particular one there, that's the colored mind map, is not, you get the blank mind map, you get the blank one, but you don't get the colored one in the freebie. The colored one is actually in the concepts of music mind maps, which are available in my store. So don't forget, in the concepts of music freebie, you get all posters for each of the concepts. Plus, you're also getting a music one, which is my way of getting my kids to talk about and write about music. And also Mrs. Hip Dot, which is all the other questions, other types of questions, a good way to remember how to do that. And you get the posters for each one, as well as mind maps for each of them. So the mind maps aren't pictured there. But tone color, you can see you're getting the tone color poster and the actual mind map. So again, depending on what size you want to print, you can see there's 3 different sizes printed there for the poster and 2 different sizes printed there for the mind map, because it depends on what you want to do, how you want to use it. And don't forget, if you'd like to get yourself a free copy of the Concepts of Music download, go to that address there, jooya.teachable.com/p/master the Concepts of Music. Or simply just go to, if you just go do a search, Jooya Teachable, I'm the only one that's going to come up. And once you actually see that, you'll go and have a look. And there's 2 things that are actually on the courses page. One of them is this freebie, and the other one is a paid course, which is not available quite yet. It's I've got students in there, but haven't quite opened the cart at the moment. And don't forget, you could obviously find resources ready for your classroom to use today in my Teachers Pay Teachers store, which I'll show you again in a moment. And you can use the link in the description below to go to my store. Or again, if you go to Teachers Pay Teachers and type in Jooya Teaching Resources, you'll certainly be able to find me, because I'm the only one. And don't forget, if you want more information on timbre, there's plenty of information on timbre, which is on my blog at juliajooya.com. Now, remember, there's 2 ways you can look at this. So if you go to my the juliajooya.com, go to the Elements of Music blog post, and then from there, it's a really good directory to everything else. And on that page, I actually talk about tone color, but timbre, there's a lot of information. So much of the information crosses over, it's not funny. Okay, so let me just stop share, because it's a blank screen now, and get back here. So as I said, the main thing about tone color is that if you can talk about those things of an instrument, identify, classify, explain, describe how it sounds, range, roll, register, you've actually got a really good answer, bones to actually answer. Now, I should say, when I'm getting my kids to do this particular type of question, we don't write in paragraphs. We use a table, and I actually get them to do 2 tables, because it doesn't quite fit nicely on an A4 piece of paper all the way through. So I usually get them to do identify, so instruments, down 1 column. The next column is classify. The next column is explain. And maybe the next column, if they can, is a describe. If they've got enough, depends on the size of their writing. But that is a really good, and then just simply list the instruments down the side, okay, and then go through and actually do all the other parts, what all's that, and then do the same thing, do the instruments again, and do range, roll, register in a separate table, because sometimes, as I said, it just doesn't fit properly on the page, because the way they actually give you the question in the HSC, it's, you know, it's a portrait, and you know, the number of things I would say to go into a table would be better landscape, but don't do that. Go stay portrait, because the examiners need to make sure it's easier for them if it's portrait, not landscape. So as I said, you can get all sorts of things in my store. So there is obviously about tone color. This is the stage 5 one, which is perfect for year 9 and 10. You could use some of this obviously for year 7 and 8 if you wanted to, but it's more suited, it's been deliberately written for and designed for that stage. Okay, stage 5. I also have a stage 6 one, which is, I should have had it out, not pitch, gotcha, it's never the one you want, is it? Where is it? There it is, tone color. Okay, so I love this book because I really made it very I wanted to make sure that I was covering lots and lots of instruments, and not just, you know, Western things. So you can see South Asian instruments. We've got lots of different things. And actually in the PDF, when you get it, all those are clickable. Okay, so you can go and listen to those particular instruments, because it's really good to expand your knowledge on those sorts of things. So, you know, Indonesian instruments, Chinese instruments, West European, like, you know, all these sorts of things. Like, this is a really interesting one to watch. You know, these are all different things, and like this, that one there that looks like a little cow, it's basically another type of bagpipe. Okay, and then we've also got all sorts of other instruments. I don't even know how to say that Welsh one, that Wales one, not even going to try to say it, but that's the tone color one for the actual for stage 6, because it has all the types of questions in that one. As I said, the other one you don't, but don't forget, you can get the free copy just to get you started if you want to, if you're studying. So you get the free copy, go to jooya.teachable.com, and you'll actually be able to find all those things. So until next time, I'm Julia from Jooya Teaching Resources, and happy teaching.